Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we are building a base game only family home in Willow Creek. And today is actually the base game infant update as well. But that was not the plan. I actually planned to have this video done last Friday and that did not happen. I did not get it done. I had some technical issues and it also just took longer than I thought it would. This is kind of a large house. But maybe it works out well enough anyway because today is the base game update. And I feel like it's a pretty big one. It's the biggest update we've had in a little while, I guess. Maybe I feel like that just because I know how much people wanted the babies updated and everything like that. But yeah, I feel like it's a pretty exciting day. But yeah, this is a base game only home. And it ended up having 4 bedrooms total, but there are 2 empty rooms in the end as well, which I'll talk about a little bit when we get to the interior. So technically it could be a 6 bedroom, maybe 5 bedroom. One of them is pretty small, but it is a pretty spacious base game house. It's kind of expensive though. It ended up, I think, a little under 300,000 simoleons, and I feel like that's pretty expensive for a base game, not a base game house. It's expensive for any house in The Sims. 300,000 simoleons, that's a pretty good little bit of money to, if you're not playing with cheats, you know, if you have like free real estate on or whatever, if you play with the mother load cheat, then it doesn't really matter. But I feel like it's a pretty pricey house, but it's pretty large as well. And even though this is a base game house, it doesn't have anything to do with the new pack that's coming later this week. I did kind of build it with a little bit of a generations theme in mind because there's a little bit of career rewards that don't have anything to do with the Sims that I had in my mind while I was building this, if that makes sense. So I started thinking maybe it's like stuff that came from their grandparents or other parts of the family, stuff that kind of got passed down or whatever. So in my mind, it kind of was a generation home that has been, you know, in the family for a little while, which you don't have to play like that, of course, it doesn't matter, but that's just kind of what I was thinking. But yeah, while I was building the exterior, I didn't have any idea who I was building this for. I didn't have any kind of story in my mind or anything like that. And so the exterior is pretty generic. I did know that I wanted to have some playground equipment and stuff like that just because I feel like family gameplay is kind of in the spotlight right now for The Sims because of the infant update, and then the new pack is very family oriented and stuff like that. So I decided I did want to have definitely some spaces for kids and stuff. And yeah, so that's really all I had in my mind while I was building the exterior. I didn't have an inspiration picture either like I normally would. I did kind of have a house that I was looking at for the shape of it, because I don't build a whole lot of family homes, and so I wasn't really sure how to go about making the shell. That's one thing that I really want to get better at, is just being able to start placing rooms around and just make it into a house, because I feel like I'm not great at that. But I am kind of proud of the way the roofing turned out on this build. It probably could be better, but roofing is one of my least favorite things to do in The Sims while building, and so yeah, I'm kind of happy with the way it turned out. I was pretty proud of that. But yeah, the shell of the house is pretty much done now. I think that I cut out some of the footage, like where I added windows and stuff to the sides of the house or to the back of the house, just because it kind of was repetitive and I didn't think it really mattered that much. But right now I'm placing a little garage area. And so since this is base game, I had to get a little bit creative. We do have the garage door that's in the debug menu now with the base game, but I didn't like the way it looked with this house. And so I ended up deleting that. You could see that I had placed it down for a little bit, but I just didn't really like the way it looked. So I went back to kind of the old school trick of using a little bit of a different wallpaper, using a couple of columns on the sides of the wallpaper, and then placing those single tile base game windows up on the top to kind of make it look like a garage. And I think that's like a classic trick for building, but I still really like it. I think it looks really good, and I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. But because this house was on a foundation, I did need to make it look like a car could drive up into that garage. So I ended up using a roof piece for that, and I kind of angled it up over the foundation to where it looks like you could drive upwards. I did that instead of using the terrain tool because I just don't like the terrain tool. I'm not very good at it. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I really like it. I just am not very good at using it. And so I didn't want to try to raise the ground level like that and then it'd be really uneven. I wanted it to kind of have a very polished look. And so I feel like the roof trick did that better than I could have done with the terrain tool. But I did try to match the concrete that was on the rest of the ground in front of it. I tried to match it as best as I could to the roof color that I used. It's not a perfect match, but I feel like with the car placed there, it's not too bad. It's not too obvious, I feel like, with the little truck that's there. But, one thing that's funny about the debug cars and stuff is that when I first started building, I didn't realize that there was a debug menu, and I didn't realize there was a live edit menu and all of that good stuff. And so I didn't know where people were finding the cars that they were using on their builds. And so I remember doing one build. I don't think I ended up sharing it like this because it looked horrible. And thankfully I was able to see that and notice that it looked bad. But I ended up using the little toy car that is with the kids. It's kids toys, I guess, but it's a base game little toy car. And it's a little red one, and I ended up trying to size it up really large to where it would be the size of an actual car, and it just looked horrible. It's one of those items that doesn't size up very well. It doesn't keep its details and stuff, and yeah, it looked terrible. And I remember being so confused and just not understanding how other people were using the cars that they were using. And then finally, I think that's probably when I learned about the debug menu and the live edit menu and everything like that, because I really wanted to use vehicles. So I like the little cart in front of the house. I think it makes it seem really realistic, and yeah, I just think it looks cute. But it does kind of cover up the different colors of that garage driveway situation as well. But anyway, we do have a small pool for this house. I wanted to have a few outdoor activities and stuff like that because the weather's changing where I live. It's getting a little bit warmer. Not a whole lot. Right now it's really cold, but it should be getting warmer pretty soon. And you can kind of tell that everything is starting to bloom outside and spring is on the way. And so I wanted to kind of have a lot of stuff to do outside on the exterior. And also, this was a pretty big yard as well. This is a 40 by 30 lot, and you don't think that's very big, or I don't. Every time I start building on a 40 by 30 lot, or even like the 30 by 20 lots, it doesn't sound very big, and so it's like, oh, it's fine. I'll just pop a house on there. But it's pretty big when you actually go to decorating and adding stuff to it. It's actually a pretty good amount of space. But this is the lot in Willow Creek that the roommates live. I don't think they're called the roommates though. I think that's a different household, but it's Summer Holiday and Liberty Lee and Travis Scott. Is that his name? Travis Scott? I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I know for sure about Liberty Lee because I don't actually like her as a sim, which kind of sounds aggressive because I don't really feel that strongly about many of the townies. But for some reason, every time I played, Liberty Lee just gets on my nerves. I don't know. No offense to anyone who does like Liberty Lee as a townie, but she is always the townie that I end up using to fulfill the mischief, what do you call it? The aspiration stuff, where you have to be mean to a sim and you have to have a sim dislike you. You have to have two sims, I think, dislike you. But I always know that Liberty Lee is going to be one of them just because I just don't like her. I don't know if it's because she has the clumsy walk or what. Maybe one time when I was playing, maybe she started a fight or something with one of my sims. But for a really long time, she's one of my least favorite sims. But this is the lot where they originally live, where she lives. And I know that's a little bit weird, but do you guys have townies that you just don't like at all? Surely I'm not the only one. I think Liberty Lee really is the only one that I really don't like, but I have townies that I like better than others. I feel like a lot of people don't like Eliza Pancakes. Or maybe it's both of the Pancakes couple, but I feel like it's mainly Eliza that people don't like. But they don't really bother me that much. I don't play in that neighborhood a whole lot, so for some reason I just never really see the Pancakes. But Liberty Lee, always seems to end up in my game where my Sims are. And I also start playing a lot in this neighborhood though. A lot of times for some reason when I would start a new save file, I would end up on the lot that's across from this one, because I think it's the only empty lot that's in this neighborhood. And to me, this is kind of a starter neighborhood for Willow Creek. And so before we got Newcrest, I think I always tended to start out a new game here. And then once Newcrest came into the game, then I always wanted to start out on that 50 by 50 lot. And so I could have barely afford anything for the longest time. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of off topic, but I just don't really like Liberty Lee. So let me know in the comments if you have any sim townies that you don't really like, or if you have a favorite. Let me know, because I'm hoping that I'm not the only one. But yeah, we're on to the interior of the house now. And so it was a pretty big interior. You guys saw the shell of the house, so you can see it's pretty big. And I don't really like building a lot with hallways. I'm kind of bad with floor plans. And so when I started making the floor plan for this interior, I didn't want to have just a bunch of hallways all the way through it, because you have to decorate them. And there's not very much you can do to decorate a hallway. It's really just artwork. And so they stressed me out. And so I tried to avoid that. So I ended up having this kind of formal entryway, maybe a little bit of a living area because I put a few couches and stuff there. But really it's just a formal entrance to the house. And then you have off to the side, we had the kitchen, we have this bathroom. There's a total of 3 bathrooms in this house, I think. And then that little area on the side of the house that kind of had a little bit of a different structure, I ended up doing an indoor garden kind of situation in there. I put a bunch of garden planters and stuff because in my mind, one of the adults that live in this house really likes to garden. I had already placed a kind of a garden area in the back, but I wanted that room to be a garden as well because it's got a lot of sunlight, and I don't know, I just really didn't know what else to do with it, and that felt like it made the most sense. So that's what's in that little room, is a little garden area. And then when you come around and enter the house, you have the door to the backyard and then a more casual living room in this area. And then the first floor has 2 bedrooms, and they're both kind of themed for an adult, if that makes sense. But this one is actually kind of more of a guest room, I feel like, because I didn't put a lot of personality into it. And as I got into the interior, I had kind of decided that the parents of this family would be in business because it's kind of a nice house. And I don't know why in my mind, I just felt like they would be in the business career. And so I have this little office here as well. And so I decided to just include a guest room. I don't know how often you would actually need a guest room for business meetings and stuff like that, but that's what I kind of went with. But you could change it for a grandparent or a teenager even. You could change it around and add some more decorations, change up the colors and stuff. But that's just kind of what I built that for, was like a guest room. So it's kind of formal looking, but it does have a bathroom attached. So you might actually would want to switch the main bedroom to that one, because this other bedroom that I kind of had in mind for the parents does not have a bathroom attached to it. So you might would want to switch that around if you actually wanted to play with this. But I added this really nice piano as well, which kind of is out of place. But I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but I think I have. But I was kind of building this as a generations home, so maybe a house that's been built up over several generations. So in my mind, maybe these Sims in particular weren't musicians or weren't into music, but maybe one of the generations that came before this one had a musician in the family or was in the entertainment career. And so I have a little bit of music stuff laying around, and that piano I just thought was really nice, and it looked kind of nice in that corner. Also, I was using some more of the NoCC gallery art, and if you guys are interested in any of that, I'll have the creator listed in the description box. Actually, for the last few builds I've done, I've ended up using art from the same creator instead of getting it from other people. But for this house, I knew I was going to have several kids' rooms and areas for kids to be in, like I have the little playroom. And so I wanted to have some artwork that was more specific to children. And so I grabbed some different artwork from several different creators this time, But then when I got to the end of the build, I saved it and I realized that some of this new artwork that I had gotten had marked the build as having CC. I did not know that that was a thing. I didn't realize that. I knew that there was an update where I guess they were talking about it, but I think that was during the time that I wasn't able to play much, and so I wasn't aware that that had changed. And so I don't know why some of the artwork is marked as CC and some of it isn't. If you guys know, let me know, because I'm just curious. But I did end up changing the artwork that was in that playroom because it was by a creator that for some reason it's marking it as CC. And I just don't want people to have to work hard to find these builds. If you guys want to play with them, I don't want it to be hard to find them on the gallery. And so I swapped them back out for the original creator who I've been using their artwork in most of my builds. And their artwork does not seem to affect the build. So I just swapped those out in the playroom. And then on the other side of the playroom is where those 2 empty rooms are. And that's just because I didn't really know what else to put in it. I did include doors going into those rooms, so if you wanted to download this house and play with it, you can decorate those rooms however you want to, and you can add whatever you want to, and they already have the door to get into them and everything. But I just didn't feel like decorating them because base game homes are kind of a challenge as far as decorations go, and so yeah, I was just kind of tired at that point. But that is it for this house. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I hope everyone has fun with the new update today. I hope you guys are doing really well also, and I will talk to you soon with another speed build.